Enlightenment is not real. So I was sitting here thinking about how I don't think Buddha was enlightened. I don't think the Buddhist monks are enlightened, or at least what they have is different than the enlightenment that we can reach. Because we have it in our head that, like, there's this state we can reach. There's not. That's a myth. I think it's a lie. There's stories of Jesus flipping tables and shit, right? But they never mention that. Buddha named his son Fetter, which meant ball and chain, right? So he had it in his mind that, like, his son was the ball and chain to, like, the physical reality. His envisionment of parenting was already fucked up, like, before the kid was born. Like, he was already thinking wrong about this. Buddha has an issue that nobody really wants to talk about, so I'm going to talk about this. I think Buddha's issue is that I think enlightenment, or chasing enlightenment, I think is a privileged problem. Meaning, Buddha was out there chasing enlightenment because he's seen a homeless man, he's seen a sick man, right? And he was like, oh my God, that can happen to me? And it's like, duh. But he was so sheltered that he didn't know. So he went out, right, to find enlightenment, quote unquote, to figure out how to deal with suffering. I'm not here to, like, put down Buddha's story. I love Buddha's story. I love Buddhism. I love the knowledge in Buddhism. but I do think that we're not paying attention to some details that, like, okay, so he sat there, meditated, starved himself because there was already yogi masters that were, like, starving themselves and meditating and doing that. So he went and learned from them. So he took a little bit of knowledge from them, took a little bit of knowledge from everyone else, and then, like, went, sat, meditated. While he was meditating, he was probably there controlling his mind, figuring out his own mind, learning how to silence the mind, learning how to control it, learning how to flow it, learning how to just go with it, just learning the mind. The same type of things I've been doing for the past 8 years with my psychedelic journey and my meditation practices and my mindfulness practices and just all of the practices that I've been putting in on just living my life, right? And before I was even into spiritual things, I was on this journey, right? I've been on this journey. Because what I'm trying to get at is that if Buddha was poor, like if he was born a poor man, he would have had some of the greatest knowledge that all poor men have. Socrates was a poor man, but he was a wise man. There's knowledge that Socrates had because he was a poor man that the wealthy do not have because they're wealthy. So, half of enlightenment is inside the poor. The other half of enlightenment is inside this thing of, like, once you start to go on your journey, you're going to feel like you're on the journey of enlightenment. You're going to feel like you're on the hero's journey. You're going to feel like you're on this thing because you are, in a sense. It's, but it's not enlightenment. It's no different than success and happiness. People think success, happiness, and enlightenment are destinations. They're not destinations. They're states. States of being that can be achieved right now. Right now. Enlightenment is not something you need to wait for. It's something you need to educate yourself on. Because, and I'm not talking about educating yourself on, like, reading the Buddhist practices and all that, because I don't think Buddhist monks are enlightened. Because I don't think going to live on a mountaintop away from society is enlightened. Because if me and you dipped out away from our problems, right? From our bills, from our responsibilities as parents, from our responsibilities as like humans in the society, then yeah, we would all be fucking finding peace and happiness and love and all that, right? Because we would have no worries. Our mind would be easily calm, right? No anxiety, no depression, no any of that. Easily, because a lot of the Buddhist monasteries, they basically survive off of donations, which then allows them to have more space in their mind to think and just have a clearer mind. To just be more free-minded. To be free-minded in the society we live in today will make you a homeless man. But this is why there are some I've been homeless before. People that have watched my channel have know this. I say this shit all the time because I'm trying to say something, not just saying that I've been homeless, but I'm trying to say something because I learned something that is so hard to explain in words, but I learned something from these experiences that I could never have learned without them. In 2018, I was walking around with holes in my shoes in the middle of the winter, right? In 2014, I was walking around the streets in the middle of the winter, homeless. Like, I remember one night during that time, I had to sleep on a bench, use the snow as a fucking pillow to prop my head up, right? Like, this is real life. These are not stories to me. These are memories that I remember. I remember sitting there crying. I remember sitting there cold, so cold that I had to get up and go for a jog to internally warm myself up. I remember those times because those times I would hang out with the homeless downtown. The homeless hangs out downtown near the library. And I would hang out with them, right? Smoke with them, talk with them, vibe with them, chill with them. Got to know them, let them get to know me, right? They knew that I wasn't one of them, right? Like obviously they're like, we haven't seen you down here. Like we've seen you around, but just not down here. But most people won't even talk to them. Most people look at them and judge them. That's why I say chasing enlightenment is almost like a privileged problem because, and I'm not saying this in a bad way, I'm not trying to sound like funny when I say this or sound any type of way. I'm just trying to express that, well, when I was hanging out with the homeless, because I remember they had a bunch of spice back then, like they had pounds of fucking just spice. So spice is fake weed, so like I would just sit down, smoke their fake weed with them, chill with them, talk to them, realize that they have this sense of community, they help each other out, right? Like, even the fucking addicts down there, right? Like, there'll be addicts, like, but there's a group of people, so, like, they're helping each other. They're all working on getting the drugs so none of them have to go through withdrawal, right? Like, I think we're lost because we are searching for comfort, not enlightenment. We are searching for knowledge, not enlightenment. We are searching for something that's not enlightenment. Because I have two sons in the world that I don't know, right? I had to give them up for adoption because one of them, around the time that I ended up homeless, he was born, and it's just, he ended up getting taken because we were homeless, couldn't get an apartment in time. By the time we got the apartment, it was just this weird situation where there was already a family that wanted to adopt him, and they already loved him, so I let it happen, right? I had another son that I couldn't raise, and I accepted that. So we gave him up for adoption too. The girl I had my sons with, she cannot raise kids on her own, so she couldn't do it on her own. and I couldn't do it because eventually we broke up or whatever, and it was a mess, right? I'm not embarrassed of my story. I'm not scared to talk about it. I'm not scared of judgment. I don't care what people think about me because this is me, right? All of these things I've gone through. When I learned about Buddha's story, right, I started realizing, okay, he's not as enlightened as people think. Because there's no such thing as enlightenment. Because I wasn't in my son's life, but I've been in my daughter's life since she was born, right? My daughter's about to be 11, and me and her have the closest relationship. We're like best friends. That's my homie for life. We're like, she's like my NFT partner. You know, I was learning NFTs with her as I've been doing this journey or whatever, and like I know what she wants to do with her life. She knows what I want to do with my life. We know each other. We have this deep connection that like most fathers don't have with their kids, because the way the world is makes us think that we have to go out and work for the family and never be there for the family and like do this thing where it's like we provide, but like I know me. So I can provide, but I'm providing me, right? Like the best thing you can provide is yourself. Like the best thing you can provide to your children is yourself. Because that's where I think Buddha messed up at. Because during like the end of his thing, he realized that like that's the things that pulled him out of the meditation and made him go create Buddhism and do this thing. Is he realized that it was all about the balance. That he didn't need to sit there and starve himself. That it was all about the balance. That he probably could have been in his son's life, but you know it was too late to go back. So there's some things that you can't undo, and like that's part of the enlightenment, is having the enlightenment. Like I don't know how to explain that. Enlightenment is being able to see what you didn't see. Because when I hung out with the homeless, I seen something that I didn't see before. When I became homeless, I seen something that I didn't see before. When building the relationship I did with my daughter, 10 years into this thing that I built with my daughter, I now see something that I didn't see before. Because I wanted to do this because my dad didn't do this with me, right? My dad, he's a dope human being, right? He chased his dreams, he's doing his thing, but me and him have no relationship whatsoever. Like, whatsoever. That's not something he worked on. So that's not something he has. What he worked on his whole life, though, is his dreams. So he does have that. I think he just released a movie or something, like, doing his thing. So, and I commend him for that. I respect him for that. Just like I commend Buddha for doing his thing. I respect him for that. But as a father, like, I get it because I have two sons that I don't know. So, like, who the fuck am I to say, right? Like, I get it. But let me say, from the child that is in my life, if you have the opportunity to be there for your children, be there for your children. And I mean actually be there. Be the ear that listens to them, right? Let them have the space, right, to be them. Because I think where Buddha fucked up at is he had no input on his child, so his child probably did not learn anything about Buddhism. Or like I don't know, but like I don't know. I can imagine his child was probably mad at him, right? So enlightenment is not real. Because what I'm starting to see is it seems like a privilege problem, because it just seems like when you're privileged, right, in the world we're in today, everyone is privileged. But what I mean is, like, me growing up poor really did teach me something that I wouldn't have learned if I didn't, right? Like, I don't judge people because I didn't judge the homeless. I hung out with the homeless. While other people judged me for even talking to them and hanging out with them and smoking with them and whatever. I was just understanding that they are just like you and me. They are you and me. We are all one. So, like, the homeless people are no different than me. They're no different than the CEO, the richest man in the world. We're all the same. They actually have something that most of us don't. So, like, I think we need to rethink and just pay attention. Pay better attention, because that's when you'll realize that enlightenment is not this thing that can be achieved. It's not like a state of like it's not like some Zen state or whatever. Because I don't think the Buddhist monks or those Zen monks are enlightened, because if you put them in the world we live in today, they'd lose their mind. They wouldn't be able to do what they do in the world today. Like, that's a bunch of bullshit. Like, because how many Buddhist monks have a close relationship with their kids? Like a real relationship with their kids. How many... I don't know. It's just a thought.